Life before the Internet in the UK. Picture a Britain where evenings were spent in living rooms rather than online, where a letter in the post was the highlight of the day, and where the pub, corner shop, and library were the beating hearts of communities. This was life before the Internet in the UK. Without smartphones, apps, or social media, life moved at a slower pace but carried a richer sense of presence. In this journey, we'll explore what everyday life looked and felt like in the UK before everything went digital. Conversations that waited. Letters, landlines, and knocks at the door. In life before the Internet in the UK, communication demanded patience. Handwritten letters were treasures, often kept in shoeboxes tied with ribbon. Postcards from Brighton, Scarborough, or Blackpool brought far-off cheer. Children scribbled letters to pen pals overseas, waiting weeks for replies. The UK's first and second-class postal system began in 1968, and even your stamp choice set the pace of a reply. The landline telephone, often placed in the hallway for all to hear, was a family fixture. Families gathered around, waiting for news, gossip, or long-distance updates. Without mobiles, spontaneity was rare. You made an arrangement and stuck to it. And then there were the neighbours. A knock at the door could mean an invitation to tea, a quick chat about the weather, or someone borrowing milk. These small moments built friendships that were face-to-face, not screen-to-screen. Compared with the instant messaging of today, conversations may have been slower, but they were also warmer, more personal, and far harder to forget. Entertainment by appointment. Radios, board games, and TV schedules. Entertainment before the Internet in the UK had a communal rhythm. The BBC Home Service, later renamed Radio 4 in 1967, was essential in the 1940s and 50s, with programs like The Archers, which launched nationally in 1951. Families tuned in to bulletins, drama, and music long before streaming or podcasts. By the 1960s and 70s, televisions became fixtures in living rooms, often with lace doilies or decorative ornaments perched on top. TV wasn't a personal choice, it was collective. Families gathered for Blue Peter, 1958, Top of the Pops, 1964, Doctor Who, 1963, and Saturday night game shows like The Generation Game, 1971. You either tuned in live or missed out. School children traded stories about last night's Grange Hill, 1978, or laughed at the same sketches from Morecambe and Wise. Home entertainment extended to board games and records. Monopoly marathons lasted hours, while teenagers taped songs from the top 40 onto cassettes, complete with DJs' voices interrupting. By the late 80s and early 90s, video shops, Blockbuster entered the UK in 1989 by acquiring Ritz Video, turned Saturday nights into VHS rituals. This world created shared cultural moments, something the era of on-demand streaming can't quite replicate. Knowledge was earned. Libraries, encyclopedias, and experts. In the UK before everything went digital, research was a hunt. School children in the 1970s and 80s lugged satchels to libraries, scouring shelves for encyclopedias and reference books. Librarians were knowledge keepers, guiding the curious to the right aisle. Encyclopedia sets were household trophies, proudly displayed in living rooms. Families saved for months to buy full volumes of Encyclopedia Britannica or World Book, knowing their children's education depended on them. Knowledge wasn't instant, it was earned through searching, copying notes by hand, and cross-checking. Experts, too, carried authority. Teachers, community elders, and local professionals were the human search engines of their day. Radio call-in shows answered public questions, while magazines offered Ask the Expert columns. Every answer carried weight, precisely because it wasn't a quick Google search. Learning in life before the Internet in the UK was deliberate, sometimes frustrating, but deeply rewarding. Shopping with a smile. High streets, markets, and catalogs. Shopping was a social activity. The high street wasn't just a place to buy things, it was where life happened. Butchers knew families' weekly orders, bakers slipped in an extra roll for regulars, and Woolworth's pick and mix was every child's paradise. Markets bustled with traders selling everything from fish to fabric, their voices echoing through the stalls. Department stores like Marks and Spencer and BHS drew crowds with food halls, clothes, and homeware under one roof. For those at home, catalogs were magical. Argos, launched in 1973 from the Green Shield stamp catalog business, quickly became a household name. Littlewoods, mail order since 1932, and Kay's, founded 1889, were also staples. Children circled Christmas toy wishes, while adults bookmarked sofas and televisions. Orders were placed by post or phone, and waiting for deliveries was half the excitement. Green Shield stamps themselves, introduced in 1958, were popular in the 60s and 70s, letting families save for everything from toasters to TVs. When Tesco stopped them in 1977, they began to fade, eventually disappearing in 1991. Without online shopping, the act of buying was more tactile and more communal. The shopkeeper's smile, the feel of fabric, or the smell of fresh bread were all part of the shopping experience, something lost in today's click-and-deliver world. Money moved slowly. Checks, banks, and cash in envelopes. Everyday life in the UK before technology transformed banking meant dealing with money that you could hold in your hands. Many workers received pay in brown envelopes stuffed with notes and coins. Families divided cash into labeled tins or envelopes, rent, groceries, and utilities. Bills were paid in queues at banks or post offices, where clerks stamped paperwork with authority. Checkbooks were common, and balancing them required attention. Paper bank statements arrived monthly, a reminder of every debit and credit. Britain unveiled the world's first ATM at Barclays Enfield on the 27th of June, 1967. A marvel that spread through the 1970s and 80s. Suddenly, you could access money without stepping inside the bank. Yet, spending was less impulsive. With no contactless taps, every purchase carried deliberation. Life before the internet in the UK encouraged budgeting, restraint, and a stronger sense of the physical value of money. Getting around, road atlases, bus timetables, and asking strangers. Travel was an art form. Drivers navigated with AA road atlases, their pages creased and marked with highlighter. Long journeys involved planning routes the night before, and sometimes pulling over to check directions or ask locals for help. Public transport required precision. Train and bus timetables were pinned on station boards or tucked into coat pockets. Miss a train, and you waited for the next one, sometimes hours later. No apps, no live updates, just patience. Holiday planning involved glossy brochures at travel agents. Families dreamed over images of Mallorca beaches or caravans in Devon. Bookings were done in person, face-to-face with agents who explained the fine print. Traveling in the UK before everything went digital was slower and more uncertain, but perhaps more exciting for that very reason. Workplaces without Wi-Fi, paper, fax, and the 9-to-5. British offices of the past were tactile landscapes. Filing cabinets creaked with papers, Rolodexes spun with phone numbers, and typewriters clacked away before word processors slowly arrived. Fax machines, especially in the 1980s, seemed futuristic, spitting out smudged messages that often curled as they printed. In-office communication was handled through memos slipped onto desks or intercom announcements. Meetings meant gathering in physical rooms, not video calls. The 9-to-5 was more rigid. Work rarely followed people home. When you left the office, you truly switched off. Weekends belonged to family, hobbies, or leisure. Tea breaks weren't hurried. They were rituals of connection. Life before the internet in the UK may have been less efficient, but it carried clearer boundaries between professional and personal life. Leisure and community, pubs, parks, and local connections. Perhaps the most cherished aspect of British life without the internet was the strength of community. Pubs were the social centres, places for darts, quizzes, or sharing the week's news over a pint. Parks echoed with the laughter of children playing football, tag, or riding bikes. Youth clubs and church halls hosted discos, bingo nights, and amateur dramatics. Neighbours were not online contacts, but real people you saw daily. Sundays often meant long family dinners, visits to grandparents, or walks in the countryside. With most large shops closed on Sundays until the Sunday Trading Act of 1994, weekends felt slower and more family-centered. News and gossip traveled through word of mouth. National events were absorbed collectively, whether England's 1966 World Cup win or the Queen's Silver Jubilee in 1977. Without online distractions, communities leaned on one another, creating bonds that lasted decades. Everyday life in the UK before technology thrived on this closeness, and it's why Nostalgia UK History so often looks back fondly on this era. Life before the internet in the UK was slower, steadier, and deeply human. Letters, libraries, and living rooms created bonds that no algorithm can replace. Though the modern world is faster, remembering British life without the internet reminds us of a time when patience, presence, and community shaped everyday living. Thank you for watching this video. Please don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell.